Hello, thank you for joining me. I am really excited to talk to you today about Spotify and our endeavors in intelligent automation. My name is Sidney Madison Prescott, and I'm the global head of intelligent automation at Spotify. I am based out of Manhattan in New York City. And today we're going to be talking about intelligent automation and redefining the future of work. Now, we have a very jam-packed agenda. So we're going to talk through financial engineering at Spotify. We will also talk through robotic process automation. What is it? We'll touch on some different use case criteria. We'll dive into our Center of Excellence at Spotify and how we are moving forward this initiative. And then we'll also talk a bit about business users and upskilling. And last but not least, we will dive into key performance metrics. How do we track our success in this very innovative technology in this new area for Spotify? And then we'll have some time at the end for Q&A. So as we talk about Spotify, we are in, of course, over 90 countries. We are a global company. We have shifted and matured from really a music streaming platform to an audio first platform with a stellar listening experience. And this has unfolded over since the course of our launch. And we are really accelerating that growth with the addition of podcasts and a lot of developer tools as well, all aimed and creator tools, all aimed at amplifying the audio experience of our users. In terms of where we are today, we have really ramped up on our podcasts, and this is very essential looking at this body of work, because this body of work is exactly what the financial engineering team at Spotify supports. So the goal of the financial engineering team is really to accelerate the growth of Spotify around the world. And we do that through the development, the maintenance, and the scaling of a trusted financial platform. So we not only provide automation, we also provide data insights for our business partners throughout Spotify. Now, the financial engineering team is made up of I believe now we're actually over 200 people, primarily based in New York and Stockholm, and we support a wide variety of functionality across that engineering landscape. And my team is a part of this landscape. We are the transformers, and we specifically are focused on automation, which we'll dive into a bit. When we talk about Spotify, how do we actually make our revenue? So we make it through a few different ways. As I mentioned, those creator services, advertising, and also subscriptions to the Spotify platform. In terms of expenditures, we work through content creation, which requires revenue to develop and to maintain. We also do a lot in terms of technology, people, and marketing. And last but not least, in expenditures, also our music royalties and the licensing for the podcast side of the business. Now, when we talk about intelligent automation, how do we fit into this puzzle? We are here to really automate and to help make the processes within the finance business unit, as efficient as possible. And we do that through the utilization of several different tools and agile methodologies. So our fundamental goal is to help deliver on the finance mission, which is, of course, to continue to grow and scale Spotify at large. Now, when you think about what does that actually entail, we like to think of all of the processes that today our human employees, or Spotifyers, as we like to call them, work on. So a lot of the tasks that we do as humans at work are very monotonous. So they are very repetitive. Many are very rules-based. And when you think about what you do at work, quite often you may ask yourself, is there a more efficient way that I can do this? Is there a way that this work could not be as tedious? And this is the focus of the work that my team does at Spotify. We focus on what are the manual, repetitive, tedious tasks that our employees are completing. And we look for ways to automate those processes in order to give more value added time back to our business stakeholders. Now, to date, we have saved over 50,000 hours of Spotify human time through our automations as a team. And this is at a global scale. Now, you may be asking, that's great, but what is intelligent automation? So let's really dive into the different pieces. One specific piece of intelligent automation is robotic process automation. And this really is the fundamental baseline that starts out an intelligent automation journey. So if you look at class one, our basic process automation, this is your class of automation, which is exactly as I mentioned before, very rules-based, very transactional, very repeatable. It has very well-defined process flows in terms of the business process. And these are really what we consider the classic use cases for our RPA, for our basic automation of a business process. These processes are really great to automate because we work with structured data, we have machine readable formats. Typically, we're also looking at the user presentation layer, which is very important. So the UI, rather than the back end for these systems. And usually these are your low complexity use cases. So not a lot of steps in terms of the business process itself. Again, very well defined, typically not interfacing with a large amount of underlying systems. And these are the processes that we like to start any intelligent automation journey on, because this really allows us a chance to build a relationship with our stakeholders, to also better understand their business processes, and to really get a feel for how we will work together with the business in order to successfully navigate the terrain of their business processes and the systems that the users interact with on a daily basis. Now, once we start with this class one automation and we feel that we have gained a cadence, we understand the partnership, we understand the general nuance of the business processes for the stakeholders, we move on and we start to mature out the intelligent automation landscape. And this is where we look at class two automation, which is in the center of your screen. This is where we're looking at enhanced process automation. Now, the primary difference between class one and class two is that we're looking at the ability to scale out to address unstructured data use cases. This is very key. These are going to be your use cases that are more complex in nature, meaning they are not as rules-based. The data is unstructured, which makes it typically more challenging for a machine to be able to read, interpret, and complete activities. And by scaling in a way where we start to address these use cases, we open up the body of work that we can tackle in terms of a digital transformation of the business unit. Now, this piece of the puzzle also particularly contains elements that still require analysis by humans. So this is where we may get into human in the loop capabilities, whereby we have a machine doing a portion of the work, and which is then passed off to a human to complete the remainder of the work. You can almost think of it as an assembly line between the human and the robot or the machine. Now, these processes typically have still some elements of rules and kind of caveats that we need to follow as we code the robot. But again, we really are looking at use cases that typically you would not look at in terms of a machine or a robot, specifically in relation to the data and the structure of that data. Now, as we mature out our footprint in class two, we also usually add machine learning into the mix as well. And last but not least, we dive into class three. Class three is where you look at artificial intelligence, and this is really your cognitive automation. These are the use cases that typically we would not give to a machine because there is a high level of human cognition or human decision making that is necessary to tackle these use cases. And this blend across class one, class two, and class three is the essence of intelligent automation. So your basic process automation with RPA is class one. Your enhanced process automation, where you combine robotic process automation and potentially some elements of machine learning or document understanding, which is also optical character recognition. So the ability for machines to read data off of PDFs and other kind of documentation. And then class three, which moves into the true cognitive automation, which is artificial intelligence. And this blend is in essence the tool stack, the heart of what we define as intelligent automation. Now, you may say, okay, that's great, but in terms of robotic process automation, what are the components of this? So, robotic process automation, these are not physical robots. This is software that we use within a given system, a given platform, in order to enable the automation of different manual business processes. The robots are computer coded. So we have a baseline robotic platform where we can then code the different workflows of the different business processes in order to automate those. Now, the really wonderful part about robotic process automation is the flexibility of this technology. We have the ability, in essence, to mimic what human users do on a daily basis as they interact with different business applications, as they log into different systems, also as they complete different activities within those systems. So everything from completing different calculations within maybe an Excel spreadsheet, to going to a specific file path and being able to download files there. Also the filling in of forms, web forms, and we can also read and write to different databases, as well as go outside of our internal network, and we can look at different websites that are out on the internet and also scrape data from those. So this is really great because what it enables us to do is, in essence, take a look at the way that our human users are completing their work within Spotify. And we look to make that process more efficient, not only through the automation, but also through the scrutiny of the ways within the process flow that we can make the underlying business process more efficient in nature. Now, let's look under the hood. So we understand that we can mimic human actions with these robots, but how exactly does that work behind the scenes? So if you look at the applications under robotic process execution, this is just a small sample, but in essence, it is indicating our ability with robotic process automation to interact with a wide variety of different business applications. We can interact with applications that are SaaS or cloud affiliated. We can interact with systems that are homegrown, that are on-prem. We can also interact with the front end and the back end of these applications. Now, as we move forward and we start to talk about, pardon me, as we start to talk about the actual RPA platform itself, we have several different components. There is a library of reusable code that our developers have built over time. And we use this library for all of our developers to reference to expedite our development. So this is one piece of, I'll say, reusable code that we build over time that is historical in nature, and we continue to use those components to enable faster development of new use cases as needed, depending on the underlying system. The next piece, we also look very closely at our execution data, how we process data behind the scenes. We have an an orchestration layer to the robotic process platform. This orchestration layer is the heart of what we use from a development standpoint and also from an infrastructure or support and maintenance standpoint to really understand what are the bots doing, what processes are they working on, when were those processes automatically triggered, how long did those processes run, and were those processes successful in execution. All of the orchestration layer data is then funneled into our back end database. And that database then allows us to extract analytical data or data analytics from it in order to better understand the wide variety of processes that we're automating. Again, the length of time, the success rate, things of that nature. So we have a very, very close insight on how these processes are executing over time, what business processes we are working with, and even the region, and again, the amount of processing time and whether or not that project was successful, that robot was successful in executing. We currently we can do this either on cloud or sorry, in the cloud or on-prem. And we are very closely looking at additional ways to add new robots to this population. One thing to note, the robots themselves do not live within I'll say the presentation layer, the orchestration layer that we work with as the intelligent automation team. The robots are sitting on virtual machines, and we are then calling those robots from the orchestration layer. There is a heartbeat or a signal that is being sent back and forth to let us know that the bots are connected and ready to work. And then we can either manually trigger those bots to work. The majority of our bots are actually automatically scheduled, so they run on a schedule. So we don't have to worry about triggering them. They kick off their jobs as needed per the business process SLAs. Now, when we move on, you may say, okay, we understand what this looks like behind the scenes. We understand what intelligent automation is. What type of business use cases are we actually looking at with RPA? So the first thing that we do is we look at how to assess a particular business area in order to understand the automation capability within that particular area. So we first meet with our teams, our business stakeholders, to better understand how do they do their work today? What is the majority of the team's time spent on? What are the upstream and downstream stakeholders that they typically work with? And also we look very closely at how manual are the processes that the stakeholders complete today, and how reliable, how stable are the business applications that I'll say the primary business applications that the business leverages today within their given function at Spotify. Now, this assessment is typically done through a variety of today virtual due to the pandemic, but opportunity workshops whereby we partner very closely with the business and we spend a few hours talking through the pain points of the business. Again, whether that is from a system standpoint, whether that is from a process optimization standpoint, and we're really looking for areas where we feel that have a large potential for automation through either robotic process automation or a combination of our other intelligent automation tools such as machine learning. Once we start that opportunity workshop, we then start to look at ways that we can actually make the business unit more dynamic. So we start to look at ways to actually optimize the processes. And this is a very critical point to note. We do not automate the process step by step exactly in the same manner that the business stakeholders complete the process today. This is primarily because when we look at the way that we work as humans, many times we are not as efficient as we'd like to think that we are. And when we start to automate processes, we do not want to simply mimic those inefficiencies with robots. We actually want to look at optimization of the process flow, even when we're starting to look at our automated or our technical solution design. And this is really we want to make sure that we enable the bots to flow through a very seamless pathway in terms of from the beginning of the use case all the way through the end of the use case. And that way we can expedite the overall number of transactions the bot can complete. One of the benefits of robots, they don't have to take breaks. They're not humans. They can pretty much run maybe not 24/7, because you do have downtime of your virtual machines for maintenance, routine maintenance, whether you have any patches that you have to put on your virtual machines. But typically you can run very close to 24 hours a day, which is excellent. This really impacts the ability of the business to drastically increase the amount of transactions and processing levels for a particular business area. Now, let's look at one of the processes that we've automated through this technology. So we have a bot, which is called TaxBot, and this bot works on direct tax and transfer pricing. Now, this is a really great use case for RPA because the business team came to us with a very distinct problem. They had an existing tool within the environment that they considered legacy software, which was going to be sunset. And unfortunately, they did not have a replacement for this tool. And of course, naturally, there were still business processes that would need to be executed, whether or not this tool was in the environment. So the challenge was, how do we maintain the business processes despite the fact that we are removing this legacy system from the Spotify environment? And the answer was, we can complete those processes and continue to maintain coherence through the business with robotic process automation. So we took this process. I was typically taking the business about 1,000 minutes for each manual processing transaction. They were, in essence, manually downloading a lot of reports from a specific financial system. They were running a query to actually calculate all the different transfer pricing fees. And this is at a global scale, so across different regions around the world with different layers of complexity behind their tax transfer pricing fees. And then for each regional subsidiary, we were also placing that data into an Excel file. So this was the manual process. So this is what the business did before with this existing legacy software. We converted this process to a robotic process automation task, and we were actually able to reduce the overall processing time by 85%, which is extremely significant. This is primarily a combination of the speed of the bot, the design of the bot. So we really went through and optimized the underlying process flow, as I mentioned before. And we also streamlined a lot of the ways that the, excuse me, the humans were navigating, sorry, were navigating the actual worksheets that they were dealing with. So rather than, there's a lot of redundancy in the way that the humans were working. So we stripped away that redundancy and we really streamlined the way that the bot would actually execute on these transactions. And this was really great. So the bot was in essence able to create pivot tables, complete the different transfer pricing validations of the fees, and also to send out an email notifying the business of the success of the transactions on the bot end. And also the bot would look at being able to send out, we coded the bot to send out files to the business, all of the output files that it had worked with, that it had created through a templated version. And also we enabled the business to look at, were there any business or system exceptions that occurred as we went through and navigated this process? So this was extremely successful. We went from 1,000 minutes of manual processing time to 120 minutes of bot processing time for the tax team. And we have a few other use cases that I'd like to mention. So we have also worked with our treasury team and our FP&A team. to pull a wide variety of reporting from a financial system, to look at the actuals of those reports and the data compiled within them, and then to actually compile those reports for the business, upload them to a specific file path, and email them to the end user. And this is great because this is something that is very necessary for our different financial processes that are being worked by the Treasury team. We also have worked with our financial planning and analysis team to look at the extraction of a large amount of data from another financial system that we have, to populate that data, take a look at the ways that we can manipulate that data and do a wide variety of data validations. And this is very essential to our month-end close. So a financial process that we have to execute from an enterprise level standpoint every single month of the financial statement year. So both of these processes were extremely data heavy, extremely complex in terms of the amount of steps that the human users were taking, and also they both had a lot of time that was spent on the overall process and the overall amount of time that the business was spending, and a wide variety of stakeholders to actually complete these tasks. So by automating these tasks, we move the business away from the need to leverage as many human resources as they were leveraging to actually complete these very, very mission critical projects. So now let's talk about our center of excellence. How do we facilitate all of this work? What have we done to date in terms of outside of those two use cases that I just showed you? So the Center of Excellence, as I said, sits within financial engineering, which is a engineering component or enablement of the finance business unit at Spotify. Our goal as a team is really to provide that continuous optimization of our business processes at scale through the use of the intelligent automation tool stack, which again can be is typically a combination of robotic process automation, optical character recognition, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. Now, to date, our project has been, or I'll say our program has been extremely successful. We have over 140 robots in production. Again, that is around the world. So everywhere from Stockholm to New York to Germany and even Singapore. We have also enabled a number of teams at Spotify to be a part of this digital transformation journey. So we've worked with teams from accounting to ad operations to internal audit to our tax and treasury teams, as mentioned before. We're currently a team of about a little over 20 resources, and we have structured those resources with an infrastructure team, a development team, and a leads team, which really helps to ensure that we are managing all of our different projects, whether from an infrastructure side or business process development side, successfully. We've also tackled a wide variety of infrastructure challenges in relation to scaling out this program, including setting up our multi-factor authentication solution that works simultaneously with our bots. We've also built out a very complex data visualization dashboard to give us better insights into our bot processes. And to date, as we said, we have saved over 50,000 hours of manual work, meaning we have reduced the amount of time that it takes our business process owners to go through a particular process by 50,000 hours. And we're on track to increase that even more as we move towards the end of Q4. And one thing to note as well, we also have a very large citizen developer population. I'll dive into that as well. Our citizen developers are, in essence, business users that we have upskilled across Spotify in order to enable them to build out their own small robotic process automation projects. We have trained almost 140 Spotify business stakeholders in robotic process automation and agile methodologies in order to enable them to automate very small, tedious, and low complexity tasks on their own, with the support and the guidance of different development toll gates from the COE. So this has been extremely successful, and we've done this through a wide variety of internal boot camps that we host once a month for our citizen developers, or in essence, business users upskilled to work on RPA. Now, we have structured our Center of Excellence in a way where it is a hybrid model, which is in the center of your screen. This has been one of the key components of our success at Spotify with this initiative. We started this initiative, the Intelligent Automation Center of Excellence, in January of 2020. And as I said, we've gotten to that 50,000 hours and over 140 bots in production within that time frame. One of the great things about this entire initiative, we have completed all of this, including standing up the team, scaling out the automation footprint virtually with our stakeholders and with our team. So due to the pandemic, we have all been working from home, and we have not been in the same office, even in the same region, of course. And the hybrid model has worked wonderful, which is really where we have the Center of Excellence facilitating the central automation capabilities, meaning we own the platform, meaning we own the governance of, who gets to work on robots, how do we upskill business users, what are the development toll gates as we work on robots. And the business, we actually enable our business stakeholders to either work with the COE and our skilled developers on more complex projects, and we partner together, or we can have our stakeholders upskill and they can learn about how to build out their own automation bots themselves. Again, very simple, low complexity use cases. Now, this is great because we really have created a synergy where we have robots, we have the business, we have the Center of Excellence, and we're working together as a partnership rather than having the Center of Excellence own the automation capability across all of the business units, and we could become a source of failure. We could also become a blocker, a source of being able to block the digital transformation. We wanted to really open this up and enable the business to move at their own speed, their own pace, which is why we enable the citizen developer component and the learning, the upskilling to build out those very low complexity projects. And we also have the COE side, which has the ability, we have very skilled developers by trade that are building out those very complex projects, which may require APIs, which may require higher number of transactions, etc. Now, one key to point out, despite the efficiency and the great things about the virtual workforce, we still have to maintain a level of human oversight over this work. So robotic process automation does not eliminate the human operator or manager. It does enable those managers to have a more streamlined funnel of activities that they are reviewing on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, but it requires maintenance. This entire project still requires infrastructure routine maintenance, whether it's patches, whether it's software upgrades, whether it's scaling. As our automation footprint continues to grow, we have to add additional virtual machines. We have to potentially scale out around the world with reaching different data centers, standing up different data centers. All of this is bundled into our virtual workforce oversight, which we like to call it. So really, the support and maintenance of the scaling of the automation footprint. And so that dedicated human oversight is not removed. And I think that's very critical for us to remember, is that we still need oversight into the infrastructure piece. We still also need insight into the business process. We enhance these projects quite often, meaning that the business stakeholders will often come to us after we've completed a bot, after we put it into production, and they're looking for enhancements to that robot. They're looking for increased throughput, or maybe the underlying business process has changed in some way. So we work quite frequently to complete enhancements to continue maturing out the automations that we initially have released into production. No, I spoke a little bit about the citizen developers. I'll touch on this again. This is the second piece of the COE. So you really can think of the center of excellence as the developers by trade that are working on the complex automations, and then the citizen developers, or the business stakeholders that we have upskilled to build their own low complexity use cases. We train up these individuals internally within the COE, and we do this in order to help them understand really what is RPA, what are the benefits, why should they participate in this type of initiative, and we help them to understand a wide variety of things. General coding standards, we actually help them, and they learn and they practice within the boot camp, which is the training course. They practice on developing their own bots within that boot camp. So we take a 1 week every month, so we take 5 days, and we break out sessions into about 4.5-hour blocks each day. And we have very, very hands-on scrutiny of, how do we help everyone to understand RPA? And let's actually take a business process that you do today, and let's use that as a use case. So each of our trainees, we ask them to think of a business process that they do today that's extremely manual, extremely repetitive, and we help them. They actually work on that use case throughout the training course. So by the end of the 5-day boot camp, they actually have an MVP, a minimum viable product that they can showcase to their leadership, and they can continue working on that after the boot camp to actually bring their first bot to production. Now, the next piece, and this is really flowing through, I won't dive too deep into this, but you can just see this is really the layout of that 5-day boot camp. So we start really introducing to the stakeholders to RPA, what is the platform that we use, which is UiPath. We dive into kind of what are the simple flows for building out a robot, what are the more advanced flows for building out a robot. We dive a lot into exception handling. How do you handle a less than ideal scenario in terms of business process? And then we also talk in a lot of detail about best practices from a development standpoint. And then the last day, as I said, the stakeholders are working on that use case they brought into the boot camp. On the last day, they actually start to showcase what they have built over the course of the 5-day training. And then after they're done with the boot camp, we actually continue to support them, and we help them to bring that use case all the way to production release. So last but not least, we'll dive really quickly into the metrics. So I've talked a lot about how we work with the business, how we partner to understand the pain points, the inefficiencies of the different business processes around Spotify. We need to also be able to clearly understand the level of transformation that we are going through as a team as we move through these different business stakeholder areas. And so we do this through a dashboard that we have created. This dashboard was created at the end of last year, close to the end of last year, and this enables us to really look at the overall population of our robots. And as you can see, at this time, we had 44 processes deployed. So this dashboard enables us to see a wide variety of details about the entire bot population. We can see everything from the number of total runs that we have executed, the time that we have saved, so the manual processing time versus the robot processing time, which then helps us to calculate our return on investment for our development time. We also get to see what processes have been deployed in the environment. Are those robots that the citizen developers built, or are those robots that the Center of Excellence has built? And then we also look at the number of unique successful runs for each robot process. And what we're looking for there is what's the level of success that we achieve from every single run of every single business process, because we want to make sure that we're not just building robots that are failing once they run in production. We want to make sure that we're building robots that have quality to them. And that can successfully complete the task without failing during the project. We also like to look at, talking about the failures, we like to look at that percentage complete. So how successful are we for every single robot in terms of successful execution of the task that the robot was designed to run? We look at that percentage of exceptions. We look at the distinct exception codes that that the developers have built into each project. We also do kind of a heat map, and you can see this on the bottom right-hand screen, where we really look at what time of day were these failures taking place. And quite often that may indicate that there's some sort of, so there's something that we need to look at, maybe on the system side, maybe on the, again, the business process side. Maybe we're not receiving an input file at that time of day, and so it's causing the bot to fail. So we look very deeply at all of these different elements to better understand how are the efficiency of our bot processes. And this helps us to really drill down on the root cause and do some analysis on any failures that are occurring within the environment. And that is really the framework of the Center of Excellence. I think we have a few minutes that I can dive into questions. I do see a question here. What is the future of work for non-robots? Where do you see the future of regular people if you keep reducing the human hours? This is asked by Thomas. This is a great question. So I actually think of this as an incredible opportunity for humans to really accelerate our business capabilities. Meaning, as we roll humans away from the need to execute these very tedious, manual, repetitive tasks, we're opening up our human users to actually do more value-added work, meaning work that requires a human intellect, human capacity. And so I see us moving away. I see us redefining the roles and responsibilities for each job function, and it becomes more cognitive in nature, more value added in nature, and we really start to strip away, let's say, doing a lot of tedious manipulation in Excel, right? Or even now we've even started seeing the automation of presentations, the designing of presentations. And this frees up our teams to really do more stakeholder partner management, to really dive in deeper on innovation projects, right? To thinking about what's the next move for our company as a whole, right? So we want to strip away all that tedious work and start to really give ourselves more time to think about innovation, to think about ways to accelerate our growth as a company. And I see all companies doing this, right? Remaining as a business, at the cutting edge of business requires that you have that time as an enterprise to really think about ways to remain at the top of your game in your given industry, and to really also focus on stripping away the things that really you don't need, for example, an engineer or an analyst to spend hours filling in an Excel spreadsheet, or hours pivoting data back and forth, or extracting files from a certain file path. Those are things we can relegate to the robots so our engineers can focus on creating more valuable projects and work for the team. I don't see any, so I would say we're really reducing the human hours to enable the human users to do more, and to do things that are more complex and more cognitive in nature. The last question, do you use UiPath only or maybe other apps? Or maybe you develop your own based on, for example, Python. We do a combination of both. So UiPath is the robotic process automation platform that we use. We also do use scripting languages, and that's one of the things I forgot to mention. RPA is really great because we can work with a wide variety of tools in combination. So we do work with scripting languages in conjunction with the robotic process platform. We can also work with APIs, so we can work with the user interface or with the front end or back end, basically. And this is really great because again, it provides us additional flexibility for the types of use cases that we can encounter. So we use scripting languages in combination with the RPA platform, and we also do use other languages as well. So we use .NET, or we can use C#. So there's a wide variety of different programming languages we can use in conjunction with the UiPath RPA platform. Okay, perfect. So I think I'm at the end of my time. It has been absolutely wonderful to share with you the journey that we have taken within Spotify in regards to robotic process automation, machine learning, and we're starting to move into artificial intelligence as a part of our intelligent automation framework. And we are really excited for next year and the additional value that we can bring to the business. I hope you've gained not only insight into what we're doing at Spotify with intelligent automation, but more insights into this technology and also how you can leverage it for your own teams to really enhance the digital transformation of your business. So thank you so much for your time, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation.